Global Namaste, Acharya Ji. It's a privilege to be here talking to you today. From seeing the work that you've done a few years ago on Sanatan Sanstha UK and how this has now become Sanatan spirituality, just seeing the legs that you've been able to walk people through from having a Vedic yoga Gurukul kind of system for kids and to enable them to go deeper into the scriptures, to enable them to be leaders of the Samaj, to enable them to have a deeper sense of who they are and how they can just be present in the community. And it's wonderful to see how you've done so many things internationally. You've been invited to speak on so many platforms, and we are so excited to have you here today. So tell us a little bit more about your journey with the Bhagavad Gita and how you've moved from Sanatan Sanstha to Sanatan spirituality.
So my humble pranams to all the seeker who are here listening and everybody who is trying to listen worldwide on this platform of Healing Our Earth, which is creating a knowledge-based system where the knowledge of the Dharma and the Gyan of the Dharma is reaching to millions worldwide. So my humble pranams to all of you, first of all, and all the people who are listening. And before I start, Riddhiji, can I also want to recite a shloka, which I think will give the full meaning of this whole conversation that I'm going to have.
Yes, please, go ahead.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिना सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः ॐ शान्तिः ॐ शान्तिः. So this shloka is I think, the go-to shloka. I always feel that this conveys the full philosophy of Sanatan Dharma and the work we all try to do for Dharma, that this is for everyone. And it is for everybody's wellness. It is for everybody's peace. This is all this shloka is all about. We pray for the well-being, peace, happiness, and the knowledge of the Dharma to reach to everybody. And we make it a universal conduct, a universal way of living. And that is what I feel Sanatan Dharma is. So in a world obsessed, which is where something is new, trending, we gather today to explore something which predates the human civilization. A truth which is so profound that it has survived the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of countless philosophies, and continues to guide us towards liberation. So question is not whether Sanatan Dharma is real or not. Question is, have we become ready to recognize this reality? Because it has always revealed itself. And another shloka which helps to guide in that is Yathe Pinde Tathe Brahmande. What is happening in the cosmos, in the universe, is also happening inside you. And that is what Sanatan Dharma is. It tells you that everything that you see outside in this world is what is happening inside you. And if you connect it to the Bhagavad Gita, this is what eventually the Bhagavad Gita was. That Sri Krishna, when he was talking to Arjuna and trying to guide him in his moments of doubts, he was giving him a sermon, right? And everything was telling him. In the end, what he does was show him the Virata Roop, right? The eventual, the ultimate reality. And that's what it is all about, that he revealed that everything which is happening in this cosmos, be it the birth, be it the deaths, be it the other actions that are happening, everything is happening inside me and everything is happening inside you also. So Sanatan Dharma is actually the most ancient philosophy, if I have to put it in scientific words, which tells us the ways of life. Sanatan is eternal, and everything around timelessness, and Dharma we know is the cosmic law, the righteousness, and together it becomes the eternal way, basically. Now, as you asked me a question, how I transformed Sanatan Sanstha of UK to Sanatan Spirituality Foundation. As I mentioned, I run a series of podcasts. I'm a content creator as well. I try to spread the knowledge through various platforms. You can connect to me on Abhiyogi Show. That's my handle everywhere. So the thing was, Riddhi, that I realized that Sanatan Sanstha of UK was doing good work. We were running a Gurukul. We were doing great events in very prestigious venues like the Parliament or the Nehru Center and other things. There was a need to go even further, because this knowledge is not just for, a particular geographical location or one particular sampradaya or sect or something. It's for everybody. And that's where the idea came that let's expand this and make it into a spiritual foundation which can work worldwide. And the idea came because we were getting some good interest from doing some seminars and webinars in the US. In Bharat, I'm co-creator of Sumarti Ashram. We are building an ashram. The biggest Vedic knowledge base library is what we are trying to build as well. So there are multiple things we were doing. So it made just sense to go more into that universal appeal where everybody could connect. And the reason I would tell you, it's not just another organization. The idea was that every framework, every knowledge system, every kind of belief system could be incorporated. Today, we have multiple organizations worldwide, but what we see is people try to enforce a particular philosophy, or they are inclined to a particular philosophy, or they are inclined to a particular Vedic knowledge system or a yogic system. The idea of Sanatan Spirituality Foundation was that let's make it global, very open, like Sanatan Dharma. Anybody, everybody who is believer, who is just a seeker, can bring their philosophies, work together, and spread the knowledge together. So there are no restrictions here. We don't follow a particular Isht Devata, a particular yogic philosophy, a particular anything. Sanatan is eternal. Everything in this knowledge system is eternal. So we are trying to incorporate that. And again, using the Bhagavad Gita, I think the shloka, which is in the 14th chapter, the 27th one, I am the foundation of the Brahman, the immortal, I am the imperishable. I am the eternal dharma, the Shashwat dharma, and I am the absolute place. Shivoham, Shivoham, as also said by Adi Shankaracharya. This is what Sanatan Dharma has taught me, that you are eternal, you are evolving every second. You are here on this journey in this life to evolve. Evolve how? Spiritually, consciously, right? And the way to do that is by reading our scriptures, by going into Dhyan sadhana, Yog sadhana, Mantra sadhana, Tantra sadhana. There are various ways, but everything leads to one topic only: eternal spiritual consciousness, evolving itself. You have the right to perform your duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. Never consider yourself to the cause of the results, nor to be attached to any inaction, because this is the essence, that we are doing karma, but our karma has to be in a way that it makes an impact on your spiritual upbringing, in your spiritual, always I call the word elevation. Whatever we have learned in our previous lives, we have got another new birth. So we are continuing our education in spirituality or adhyatma from that point of time. And every action we are doing is adding to it. Every action we are doing is helping us evolve more, because that's the eventual goal, right? We want to come out of the cycles of life and death, birth and death, basically. And it only happens when you are completely in that conscious living state. The conscious living state is where we understand that everything, every action, every word we speak, every thought we bring into our brain, it is all going to have some kind of a effect out of it. Now you have to determine what kind of way you want to live, whether you want to make it more additive to the process of evolution or more derivative to the process of evolution of your consciousness. I'll give you a very simple example. Imagine thousands of years ago, because the modern timelines are Vedas are 1500 to 500 BC, Upanishads are 800 200 BC, Bhagavad Gita. But I don't believe in that. I don't think so. The dating has been done correctly. Around now, a lot of research has been done, and it looks like the timelines have changed a lot. And I'm pretty sure, because this is an evolving research, it will keep on changing more. The Bhagavad Gita or the Mahabharat war now dates around the 5570 BC timeline, as per many historians. The Ramayana dates around 12,000 BC. So let's imagine somewhere around 30,000 BC, when Saraswati civilization and other things were most likely happening. Some rishi was sitting there, doing his sadhana, and they realized, oh, that while doing their sadhana, they found a method to calm the mind, to relax the mind. And this is what became our dhyan sadhana, our meditation techniques, and other things around that, right? And that's why we have so many versions of it, and it has evolved over generations. New philosophies added and added and added. Somebody found a better way, somebody found an alternate way, and all that kept getting added. And that's how the Vedic knowledge system, or the Indian knowledge system, which is your topic today, started to build, basically. Not through any written scriptures or something. At that point of time, it was mostly experiences. It was all whatever they were feeling in that higher state of elevation or their consciousness, they were understanding it, passing it on through the Guru Shishya Parampara, through their disciples, to other rishis, maharishis, rajrishis. And then they were being slowly and slowly, as the evolution of paper and other things happened, many things were written down in different formats. But this is the essence of what Sanatan Dharma is. It is set of practices. It is set of experiences. It is set of learnings, which you can only achieve when you are connected to that divine consciousness. Now, I am a practitioner of Kundalini Yoga. I teach Kundalini Yoga for the past 10 years, free of cost. And the best example I can give you is that when your chakras or your nadis are activated or opened, right, as we call them, your conscious mind, which is very powerful, expands, and it starts to absorb things which are in the metaphysical world. I can give you a very good example that you start to hear sounds of the cosmos also. Sometimes you will start to see depth into things which probably others cannot see. You can start to feel vibrations on a level which are very hard to perceive. So, for example, if I go as a Kundalini practitioner to a place where I know that this place is a temple, right? I can go and just put my hands, I'll start perceiving the vibrations, and I will get to know if this mandir or place has been made with a lot of purity or not. A place where a god has come out on its own, which we call Swayambhu, you will feel immense vibrations, because that's the divine that has manifested. But a place where a thing has been made by man-made efforts, or if there has been some kind of, say, wrong kind of money used or something, you will start to feel some kind of negativity also. So our body is an instrument which can be tuned like an instrument to understand everything in this cosmos. This is possible still in Kali Yuga right now. And Sri Krishna also talks about it in the Bhagavad Gita, that this whole philosophy of yoga, Sankhya Yoga, and other things will continue for generations and generations. People who want to learn and perceive can always learn and perceive. It's just that the format might change. So 30,000 years ago, it would have been in a very different format, but today it's in a slightly, I would say, lost format, because most of the knowledge is getting lost. People are not practicing and other things. But still, I'm giving you a very practical example. Even in today's time, you can go and experience such things if you are in the practices of yogic practices like Kundalini and other things. Similarly, I found books like we've learned about what weapons Arjuna used in the Mahabharat war, in which is what Sri Krishna himself, being his guide, tells him, prepares him. So even when you have a Krishna like figure guiding you, you have to go through the cycles of karma, right? So Arjuna, who is now in his going into his penance, into his vanvas, as we call it. He has to prepare himself. So what does Sri Krishna says? You have to go, first of all, please Mahadev, get all the weapons which will be useful for you later. He does not understand at that point of time why he needs it, but Sri Krishna guides him. So he goes into his penance and worships Mahadev for some time and gets the Pashupatastra and other weapons, Pashupatastra and other weapons. And he also gets, he also trains himself to be like a transgender dancer. We all know about that, that role he plays later on in his Agyatwas. So the point I'm trying to make is that nobody is out of the karmic cycle. Everybody has to go through their karmic cycle. It's just that if you have a guide like Sri Krishna, if you have a guide like the Bhagavad Gita in the modern world, you are still guided in the right way. You know what you have to do and where you have to put your energies into. And that's very important, because everybody, if they are preparing themselves for that higher evolution state, need to be better prepared. So Arjuna, when he goes into this, this preparation mode, he realizes all those things he has learned is going to be utilized later on in the Mahabharat war. Similarly, we as humans have to be in that constant learning mode. We have to learn and evolve. We have to learn and change our format in every life. You will not be born as the same person in every life. You will be born as a different person. But the knowledge never is lost, especially the spiritual knowledge, the adhyatmic knowledge. It always builds on that. And I try to teach this philosophical vigor, that that the different darshanas, the yoga, vedant, sankhya, all those are only talking about this preparation. It is also about the psychological and I would say the validity of these things. How do you validate that you are learning? Every experience in meditation, yoga, and self inquiry gives you something new, and you start to see the benefit out of it. And then there is the universal applicability, that these core teachings are like, as you rightly started when you said that I treat it like a manual of life. It is like a manual of life. It is like, it can tell you how to behave with your brother, it can tell you how to behave with your father, how to manage complexities of human minds, how to manage situations that will arise in your life. And it has to arise in your life, because the tests keep on happening all the time for everybody. And then there is a time where we need to understand that karma, meditation, interconnectedness is all globally aligning us to that whole principle and that whole, I would say, the purpose of life. And the texts like the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishad are giving you that conscious mind to constantly inquire and find out the purpose and the ethics around it. The living tradition around all this is that, there are millions of scriptures, there are millions of texts. Every text, if you pick any of them, be it the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or the Mahapuranas or anything, start to give you a basic philosophy, a guiding principle on what are you, who you are, what are you here for, what do you need to learn from each of those stories, each of those episodes. So I see them as very simple way of educating the human mind to find ways to avoid conflict or do better conflict resolution. Again, going to that example which I took, that imagine a rishi who is uh, meditating and doing all those things. Do you think anything can trouble him, like what has somebody said to them, or who is doing backbiting about them, or who is doing who is trying to trouble them, or who is any actions of their family members, is anything going to trouble them? No, right? So similarly, if we are training our minds, we come out of that conscious state, into that conscious state again and again, that nothing is going to trouble you in this world. And you will be always in that eternal bliss and happiness. This is what the essence is, I feel, of Bhagavad Gita and all the texts and Sanatan Dharma, that you have to be in that state of mind that I have a purpose of higher growth, higher spiritual living, and anything in this world might happen, but it is not going to affect my state. These Sanskrit mantras, then which we recite, when we say these words, all of these touch different points in our throat, right? They activate different centers. They activate different centers in our brain. Cortisol levels, if I go into science, are automatically reduced and other things. So stress is gone. So Bhagavad Gita, Sanatan Dharma, each and every principle is about a better way of living, a conscious way of living. A person who is living consciously will never be impacted. They might be impacted momentarily by what is happening in the outside world, which we call the Maya, right? And that's how it's described in the Bhagavad Gita. But what happens is that this purity, this whole process keeps on, if it keeps on happening on a regular basis, you will start to detach. These impacts will be very less on your mind. And this was what was very well taught in the Vedic Gurukul philosophies. Unfortunately, Bharat has lost that philosophy. And we have gone into a very different Macaulay way of system and other things. Otherwise, you can see, we have seen the example of, I can take a few days ago, a 200-year-old tradition has been repeated by a 18, 19-year-old boy from Maharashtra, who was able to recite around 2,000 verses of a particular Ved, and without even looking at the books for 50 days, and that's why he's been given that huge titles and other things. So it is still possible. It's just, as I said in my first statement, are we ready to perceive the truth? Are we ready to acknowledge that this is who we are and this is why we are born? This is what we need to understand and learn. So I will end my small points on this by saying that I personally believe the Guru Shishya Parampara should be revived. That's why we try to work with the Gurukul we have here, and we try to also acknowledge the fact that people like Shushrut, Charak, Aryabhat, Bhaskaracharya, Varahamir, Bhrigu, they were scientists. They were we can call them rishis, maharishis. They lived in a very conscious way of living, but they were scientists. They were constantly experimenting, exploring, learning, and then passing on that knowledge in a written way, in a spiritual way, in a spoken way, so that all of us can learn to live consciously.